Welcome to Karasan 4 Skill English. Today we bring you the beloved story of The Little Prince, a book filled with wisdom, imagination, and life lessons. This classic tale explores love, friendship, and the true meaning of life, making it not only a beautiful story, but also a great guide for English learners, helping you improve your reading skills in an enjoyable way. So, stay with us until the end, as we uncover the hidden messages and valuable lessons within this masterpiece. Let's begin this magical journey together. Once, when I was 6, I saw a magnificent picture in a book about the jungle called True Stories. It showed a boa constrictor swallowing a wild beast. Here is a copy of the picture. In the book, it said, boa constrictors swallow their prey whole without chewing. Afterward, they are no longer able to move, and they sleep for 6 months while digesting. In those days, I thought a lot about jungle adventures. Eventually, I made my first drawing with a coloured pencil. My drawing number 1 looked like this. I showed the grown-ups my masterpiece and asked if my drawing scared them. They answered, "Why should anyone be scared of a hat?" But my drawing was not a picture of a hat. It was a picture of a boa constrictor digesting an elephant. So I drew the inside of the boa constrictor so the grown-ups could understand. They always need explanations. My drawing number 2 looked like this. The grown-ups advised me to put away my drawings of boa constrictors, inside or outside, and focus on geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar instead. That is why, at the age of 6, I gave up a magnificent career as an artist. I had been discouraged by the failure of my drawing number 1 and drawing number 2. Grown-ups never understand anything by themselves, and it is exhausting for children to explain things over and over again. So, I had to choose another career. I learned to pilot airplanes. I have flown almost everywhere in the world. And, as a matter of fact, geography has been a big help to me. I could tell China from Arizona at first glance, very useful if you get lost at night. Throughout my life, I have met many serious people. I have spent a lot of time with grown-ups. I have seen them up close, and it hasn't improved my opinion of them. Whenever I met a grown-up who seemed intelligent, I tested them with my drawing number 1, which I have always kept. I wanted to see if they really understood anything, but they would always say, "That's a hat." Then, I wouldn't talk about boa constrictors, jungles, or stars. Instead, I would talk about bridge, golf, politics, and neckties, and my grown-up was glad to know such a reasonable person. Chapter 2. So, I lived all alone without anyone I could really talk to until I had to make a crash landing in the Sahara Desert 6 years ago. Something in my plane's engine had broken. Since I had neither a mechanic nor passengers with me, I had to undertake the difficult repair job by myself. For me, it was a matter of life or death. I had only enough drinking water for 8 days. That first night, I went to sleep on the sand, 1,000 miles from any inhabited land. I was more isolated than a man shipwrecked on a raft in the middle of the ocean. So you can imagine my surprise when I was awakened at daybreak by a funny little voice saying, "Please, draw me a sheep." What? Draw me a sheep? I leapt up as if I had been struck by lightning. I rubbed my eyes hard and stared. And there, standing before me, was an extraordinary little fellow, gazing at me very seriously. Here is the best portrait I managed to make of him later on. But of course, my drawing is much less attractive than my model. This is not my fault. My career as a painter was discouraged at the age of 6 by the grown-ups, and I had never learned to draw anything except boa constrictors, both from the outside and the inside. I stared wide-eyed at this apparition. Don't forget, I was 1,000 miles from any inhabited territory. Yet this little fellow seemed neither lost nor dying of exhaustion, hunger, or thirst, nor did he appear frightened. There was nothing in his appearance to suggest he was a child lost in the middle of the desert. When I finally managed to speak, I asked him, "But what are you doing here?" And then he repeated very slowly and very seriously, "Please, draw me a sheep." When you encounter an overpowering mystery, you don't dare disobey. Absurd as it seemed, 1,000 miles from any inhabited region and in danger of death, I took a piece of paper and a pen out of my pocket. But then I remembered that I had mostly studied geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. So I told the little fellow, rather crossly, that I didn't know how to draw. He replied, "That doesn't matter. Draw me a sheep." Since I had never drawn a sheep before, I made him one of the only 2 drawings I knew how to make, the boa constrictor from the outside. I was astounded to hear the little fellow respond, "No, no, I don't want an elephant inside a boa constrictor. A boa constrictor is very dangerous, and an elephant would get in the way. Where I live, everything is very small. I need a sheep. Draw me a sheep." So I made another drawing. He looked at it carefully and then said, "No, this one is already quite sick. Make another." I made another drawing. My friend gave me a kind, indulgent smile. "You can see for yourself. That's not a sheep. It's a ram. It has horns." So I made my third drawing, but it was rejected like the others. "This one's too old. I want a sheep that will live a long time." Growing impatient since I was in a hurry to start work on my engine, I hastily scribbled a drawing and added, "This is just the crate. The sheep you want is inside." I was amazed to see my young critic's face light up. "That's just the kind I wanted. Do you think this sheep will need a lot of grass?" "Why?" "Because where I live, everything is very small." "There's sure to be enough. I've given you a very small sheep." He bent over the drawing. "Not so small as all that. Look, he's gone to sleep." And that's how I made the acquaintance of the little prince. Chapter 3. Awe. It took me a long time to understand where he came from. The little prince, who asked me so many questions, never seemed to hear the ones I asked him. It was things he said quite at random that, bit by bit, explained everything. For instance, when he first caught sight of my airplane — I won't draw my airplane, that would be much too complicated for me — he asked, "What's that thing over there?" "It's not a thing. It flies. It's an airplane. My airplane." And I was proud to tell him I could fly. Then he exclaimed, "What? You fell out of the sky?" "Yes," I said modestly. "Oh, that's funny." And the little prince broke into a lovely peal of laughter, which annoyed me a good deal. I like my misfortunes to be taken seriously. Then he added, "So you fell out of the sky too. What planet are you from?" That was when I had the first clue to the mystery of his presence, and I questioned him sharply. "Do you come from another planet?" But he made no answer. He shook his head a little, still staring at my airplane. "Of course, that couldn't have brought you from very far." And he fell into a reverie that lasted a long while. Then, taking my sheep out of his pocket, he plunged into contemplation of his treasure. You can imagine how intrigued I was by this hint about other planets. I tried to learn more. "Where do you come from, little fellow? Where is this 'where I live' of yours? Where will you be taking my sheep?" After a thoughtful silence, he answered, "The good thing about the crate you've given me is that he can use it for a house after dark." "Of course. And if you're good, I'll give you a rope to tie him up during the day and a stake to tie him to." This proposition seemed to shock the little prince. Tie him up? What a funny idea. "But if you don't tie him up, he'll wander off somewhere and get lost." My friend burst out laughing again. "Where could he go?" "Anywhere, straight ahead." Then the little prince remarked quite seriously, "Even if he did, everything's so small where I live." And he added, perhaps a little sadly, "Straight ahead, you can't go very far." What will the little prince reveal next? Where does he really come from? And what mysteries still await? Stay tuned for the next chapter as we dive deeper into his extraordinary world. Thank you for watching. If you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like, subscribe so you never miss an update.